democratic reconstruction of Germany. So CAS works in over 120 countries all over the world, making a unique contribution to the promotion of democracy and rule of law. So another project of CAS is that is about devolution, which pretty much seeks to enhance public participation in selected counties. So far, we're working in 4 counties, that is Isiolo, Makueni, Kilifi, and Baringo County. So the overall objective of the devolution program is to contribute to an accountable, transparent, and participatory county governance system in Kenya in accordance with, our constitutional rights. So this brings us to the main aim of our virtual meeting this evening, tonight, that is on devolution in Kenya 10 years on. And our discussions will pretty much attempt to gauge the extent to which devolution has been implemented at the county or rather at the local level by comparing the expectations and the realities, highlighting the successes so far so good and locating the current challenges. So pretty much just reflecting on devolution 10 years on, what has worked, what has not, which counties are doing pretty much well as far as implementing 1 or 2, 3 key principles of devolution is concerned, which ones are still lagging on behind, and what lessons can we learn from each other now that majority of the panelists who are represented here at least come from diverse counties. So we are pretty much going to just have that kind of an exchange and hear what milestones and challenges are being experienced in the different counties as far as devolution or rather the decentralization process is concerned. So that's pretty much it. That's pretty much the aim of our 2 hours engagement this evening will be. And I'd like to encourage also our online viewers. They can participate through the Zoom session here on the Q&A platform. They can ask their questions, they can send in their contribution or comments, or rather even reactions that they might have, as well as on Twitter using the hashtag DevolutionKE. We'll be glad to answer some of the questions that you might have. And in case, due to time constraints, we're not able to answer all the questions, we'll still follow up, on check on our social media pages and answer some of the questions that you might have. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome our moderator this evening, Mr. Kelvin Kerr, who is the CEO of Youth Agenda Kenya. And he's going to ask the participants, rather the panelists, to briefly introduce themselves as we start to engage with the questions that we'll be looking at this evening. So thank you very much.
Hello? Hello?
We can hear you, Kelvin.
Hello?
Wish us all fruitful discussions.
Kelvin, we could hear you.
Okay, I think I seem to have missed Sheila at some point. But anyway, I take this opportunity to appreciate Conrad and the Noah Stiftung for giving us an opportunity to discuss issues of devolution 10 years down the line. I also want to appreciate the work that is being done by Conrad itself, as well as all of us here and the organizations that are represented this evening. I wish to welcome the panelists as well as the participants to feel free to ask questions, to contribute to this discussion via the hashtag DevolutionKE on Twitter and Facebook. Also, you can tag at CAS Kenya. There's CAS_Kenya. And then also you can also tag me at Kelvin Care on Facebook or at Kelly Care on Twitter so that we are able to capture your questions for the panelists to answer. I want to give the panelists at least each one of them 2 minutes to give an introduction of whom they are and where they work. And recently we had an issue being discussed on gender balancing. I want to thank Conrad for giving us a chance to really prove that we are gender sensitive. I can see the panel is very well represented, even regionally represented. So I'd wish to start, it will be random. Let me start with Josephine Nyamai. Welcome.
everyone, and to all our viewers. My name is Josephine Nyamai. I work for Pamoja Trust as Civic and Engagement and Advocacy Officer. I am a public finance practitioner and budget facilitator in Mombasa County. And we also run a page known as KE Budget Kenya. You can tag us along as we have these deliberations. Thank you, and it's good to have all of you.
Thank you, Josephine. I will throw it to Alex.
Yes, good evening, everyone. My name is Alex Yator. I work for Transparency International Kenya, based in the North Rift Regional Office as a regional officer in charge of activity implementation and project implementation in the North Rift counties. It's a pleasure to join you. Looking forward to fruitful discussions.
Thank you very much, Alex. Can I take it to Dahir?
Thank you very much. My name is Dahir Daud, a social justice practitioner, a budget facilitator based in Tana River County, a paralegal, rapporteur, so many names, lakini sitaki kuzisema zote. So I'm glad to be here and would share experiences from different counties. I'm also the regional liaison officer for Konrad Adenauer Stiftung, Coast Region.
Thank you very much, Dahir. Kevin Osido?
Thank you so much, Calvin. Thank you to Konrad Adenauer Stiftung for the opportunity. My name is Kevin Osido. I serve with an organization known as County Governance Watch, which engages citizens on governance issues. And I'm happy to be here to learn, share experiences from across county governments and different intergovernmental agencies, and basically to also share information.
Thank you very much, Kevin. I wish to take it to Mildred.
Thank you, Kelvin. So my name is Mildred Zhao. I am a governance expert and social accountability enthusiast. Currently, I am working with the Africa Union, European Union Youth Cooperation Hub, but I am also a Global Youth Engagement Officer at VSO. And I'm looking forward to today's deliberations.
Thank you very much, Mildred. We can go to Mbuki finally.
Yes, good afternoon, our attendees and the panelists as well. My name is Mbuki Mburu. I'm a public policy and youth development advocate. I'm very passionate about youth development. So even today, while we are talking about devolution, I'll be biased, to look at youth development issues. Yes, I wear so many hats, but maybe one more that I want to mention is that I'm also a co-convener of the Youth Serving Organization Consortium. Thanks for having me.
Wow, thank you so much. Very powerful CVs there. And of course, the organizations represented. Wish to say again, congratulations for the good job that you're doing and that you will give justice to these discussions this evening. So fair enough, we go ahead directly to our discussions. We'll try to ventilate on the questions, and some instances I will be asking you to stop. So please bear with me today. I'll be harsh on some of you, maybe. I may also be good to some of you. I will also not be very good to participants, if at all I don't read out all their questions. But I hope that the 2 hours we have will be able to do justice to what we are discussing. So now, we have had 10 years of devolution, and a number of things have happened. I just want to get your thoughts about what the expectations were 10 years when we started, and if at all the expectations have been met, and what is there presently, that is happening. And the questions would be random, so allow me to be choosy today. So I will start with Kevin Osido. Please go ahead.
Kelvin, from where I sit, and particularly having the unity and the privilege to engage with the counties, I will be honest and candid to say that we have tried as a country, and particularly insofar as what the objectives and the of devolution was. when Kenyans promulgated the Constitution on 27th of August 2010. 10 years after the promulgation of the Constitution and 7 years into devolution, I have tried to meet the expectations of the citizens, particularly looking at especially villages where in the initial past health facilities were erratic. Infrastructure in terms of roads, there are areas that roads were quite unthinkable, or people would not even expect that they would have those facilities. We are talking about investments, huge investments in education, particularly in areas that had really perennially been marginalized. We're talking about decision-making processes, where today citizens have the opportunity to sit with their leaders at County Governance Watch. For instance, we run what we call the Division Governance Roundtable, which brings together the leaders and the led, able to engage about decision-making processes, both in terms of how resources are being used in their counties and also which choices are made. And so I think that the process of development, a lot has been achieved, not to mention the millions of shillings that have gone into the counties, not to mention the billions of Kenya shillings that have been invested in just in making devolution to work. But much more fundamental is also to look at people's feelings around challenges, which are also not being, which do not present the spirit and the attitude of what the Constitution expected. And to mention is one of them is just the fact that huge amounts of resources are still being stolen by thieves at the county levels and even at the national levels. The fact that monies, sometimes counties have stolen, still resources. Things that, of course, will be able to also present challenges and present the bad negative pictures of devolution. But I think, as we said, it's 7 years into devolution compared to what other countries have been able to go through. Singapore, for instance, Africa closer home, Nigeria, and the rest of our region. I think looking at what those kind of counties have been able to go through in terms of their local governance and then devolved governance for the sake of Kenya is really a plus. And I think that we have opportunities to learn lessons. And I think Kenya, through various frameworks and intergovernmental agencies that are concerned, we are taking note of lessons that are being learned. Everyday citizens are asking questions, and the Constitution empowers them to be able to write memoranda documents, to write letters to their leaders, to be able to write petitions. And that was really unthinkable in the initial stages of our governance as a people. To answer your question, 10 years into Kenya 2010, 7 years into devolved governance, a lot has been achieved, but I am very sure that we still have quite some steps to make in terms of strengthening, deepening, and making devolution count. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Of course, it's dangerous to give an expert a simple question. You may end up taking the whole time. So now let me take it to Nyamai. Please be a bit short. Don't take so many minutes as Kevin, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kelvin, for this opportunity. Trying to evaluate devolution first on the expectations as envisioned in Article 174 of the Constitution. One of the most exciting feature was, trying to bring services close to the wananchi, and the other issue was giving the people the power to participate and influence decisions in issues that affect them on their daily lives. And the other thing was about bringing the resources close to the people. Those were everyone was excited about all that. And also on establishment of devolving the national government. Now we have already established 47 counties. That one we have seen, and we can all, attest to that. So far, implementation of devolution has been good, and we have seen some improvement in terms of public participation, in terms of service delivery, and in terms of trying to bring the resources close to the people, and trying to evaluate Article 175, which one of the recommendation was For the counties to be able to carry out these functions, they'll need reliable resources to be able to provide those services. We have seen physical transfers from the national government and also the counties themselves being able to, to collect resources from their own source revenue. So basically, that was the expectation. How things are at the moment, it's a mixed feeling from the people. Based on public participation, I think we still have a long way to go. A research conducted by the International Budget Partnership Kenya revealed that public participation is still at 20%. And also in terms of transparency and accountability in terms of financial issues, we are still scoring 50, although we have improved from 2010 to the current date, but still we have a long way to go. Yeah, so the other issues I think I'll address as we move on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nyamai. Also touching on other questions that we'll be asking ahead. Thank you so much. I wish to now pass this baton to Alex.
Yes, Kelvin, thank you. I think that your question is quite wide. That's why we are belaboring, trying to get the points through. But from my end, just to answer it in a very simple way, we have done what we could possibly do within the 10-year period. My only worry is that in terms of implementation of devolution, I feel we should have done more, considering that we've been there for now 7 years, heading to 8 years. I feel we should have done more. Given the amount of work that has been done at the county level, given the amount of work done at the national government level in terms of policy formulation, in terms of implementation at the county level, I personally feel that we've spent a huge amount of time on other issues, other side shows, and we've not really been so much on implementing devolution. So for me, I feel for the 10 years that we've been there in terms of having the new constitution, the 7 years we've been there in terms of having the county governments, we have not gotten to where we should have if we gave full concentration into having the constitution and devolution work. Things that should have been sorted by latest 2014, 2015 are things that we are still grappling with up to this moment. So that means we did not give so much attention to it. We were so much concentrating on corruption issues, on matters to do with politics and all that. Yes.
Thank you very much, Alex. Just to appreciate and to tell you that we have so many participants joining and already questions are coming in. Some are particular questions to panelists. We'll be able to ask them as time goes by. Also on Facebook, I've already seen a few comments there. So we'll go on. I will ask the participants to be a bit patient so that we share a bit before we take their questions. Now to Mildred, I wish to get your views probably on some of the challenges that devolution has faced, and if probably there could be solutions. You could go ahead and share with us.
Thanks, Calvin. I think when I think about implementation of devolution, the biggest challenge really lies squarely on the implementation section. We have a lot of very good policy and legislative work that put down, but when it comes to the implementation and the goodwill, we seem to face a challenge. Either one, we lack the goodwill to do it very well, or two, we also lack the technical capabilities to make it happen. I'll just go and zero back in on one of the objects of devolution when it comes to democratic and accountable systems and also enhancing public participation of the community. When you look at such an article, it requires for the county government, for instance, to take specific measures in terms of making sure that the community can participate, and not just participate, but participate meaningfully. But when you go down to the county and even just do a dipstick and ask how many people, for example, have ever been part of a public participation process, you will find that very few have actually been able to go for any of those barazas. And if you find the ones that have been able to go in terms of following up on the issues or the questions that they had, if they were addressed, you find that there is already a gap. So I think in terms of challenges, we really need to look at what is the capacity of the county government until now to be able to address those specific issues, and where does their goodwill lie? Because when it comes to implementation, we're also having a lot of implementation that is being done theoretically to tick a box rather than actually meaningfully serve the public and the community at large.
Thank you, Mildred. Dahir, please also you could share with us the challenges and probably solutions.
Thank you, Kevin. Allow me to share screen.
That I don't know whether he will be able to do. Sheila, are you able to approve Dahir's screen? Or maybe as you prepare to do that, Mbuki can go ahead.
Thank you so much, Calvin. So I don't know whether I'm supposed to pick the same question for Devolve.
Yes,
okay, great. Yes. So first of all, I would like to say devolution came at a time when, you know, I was just completing campus. So I was seeing it as an opportunity, first of all, as a personal experience, and then I'll go, you know, wide. So I was seeing it as an opportunity for creating a lot of employment for young people who are exiting, you know, tertiary institutions and also TVET. And then, of course, I expected when we are having, you know, there was a proper mechanism of transition from the national government and some functions that were devolved. So I expected a lot of, you know, a smooth transition for the devolved function, which I think hasn't been the case now, because there's so many, you know, there are a lot of challenges in terms of transition. You will find, like, for example, water is supposed to be devolved. For example, road is supposed to be devolved, but then there's a lot of battle between the national government allowing it to sort of let it go. So for me, I feel like the transition bit has been a challenge as well. If you look at the other thing that I thought that would have been ideal for the county government was I expected some of the positions, like, for example, governor position, to be a manager position, where a governor is not involved in the politics of the day. We've had a lot of cases of where, you know, the MCAs and the governors are in clash because of political inclinations. So for me, I thought that, you know, having the devolved function will be more of a managerial, more of, yes, they're receiving resources from the national government, but then also they're also sourcing for funds from elsewhere, either just domestic resource mobilization or even just leveraging on community. For example, if they are good in agriculture, how do they leverage on that agriculture to be able to outsource, look for markets, and also have a way of income for the people of that county? So for me, I had so much expectation. And then, of course, public participation. My colleagues have talked about public participation, ensuring that people are actually involved in decision-making processes. So for me, I envision a situation where, for example, if we're talking about budgets, if we are talking about development in the county, we are talking about prioritization of the county processes. So I think for me, it's still a challenge, because I appreciate that most counties have now come up with public participation bills, but I think we still have a long way where the issue is not just coming up with the public participation bill, but how do we then actualize some of those bills? And of course, Mildred has pointed out on situations where we have, yes, public participation, but there is no meaningful public participation. You have people who have been mobilized specifically to just come for that public participation, sign their registration forms, and then, you know, they're submitted. So for me is, you know, just ensuring that people in that county are meaningfully participating in the county processes. So those are mainly my expectations. And I would maybe score, and maybe allow me to add one more. When we're talking about budget and prioritization, I really expected that the bigger portion of the county budget could go to development. But you find over 70% of the county allocation goes to salaries and wages. So that for me is a problem. Yeah, so for, and hopefully when we are having this discussion, then I'll be able to give more recommendations on how counties will be able to leverage in terms of ensuring that we are allocating a bigger percentage to development rather to wages and skills. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you
Kevin.
very much, Buki. Thank you so much. I don't know,
Kevin,
Dahir, have you managed?
Okay, yes. I'm not, let me go ahead. Some of the challenges that we've experienced during this devolution is one, slow disbursement of funds from the National Treasury that has affected service delivery in the counties. The second issue is high dependency on equitable transfers from the National Treasury as well. Cases like Tanariba and Lamu, who have less than 1% of their own source revenue as being part of the budget. So there's high dependency on equitable transfers from the National Treasury. We have misuse of resources, that is inflating contracts, variations, high expenditure on foreign and domestic travel, that is unnecessary non-core expenditure instead of prioritizing issues that are important to Wanjiku. We have lack of structures to facilitate public participation, that is the sector working groups. We have the county budget and economic forum. They are in place, but they're not operational. So they are not utilized. So there's no way the public can be engaged effectively in both planning, policy, and budget process. We have the issue of low absorption of budgets affecting planned programs and projects. So that is also a big issue. Counties unable to stay, like for example, in this quarter, July, August, and September, there was that squabbling, the issue of the Senate determining the third formula, the back and forth of them being unable to agree on the best way forward. So counties have lost a whole quarter. That means the disbursement will start from October. That is already the second quarter. So that is an issue that is also affecting budget implementation. Over ambitious revenue targets used to balance budgets, a case of Mombasa, where the annual compensation for employees is 5 billion and their equitable share is 7 billion. So they are annually paying employees 5 billion, but the equitable share for Mombasa is 7 billion. That means they have to raise their own source revenue of ambitious targets so that they can balance the budget. There's also the issue of bloated wage bill, case of Mombasa, Nairobi, and Nakuru counties, who have inherited a huge backlog from the different local service, but they were not given any preference. So the issue of, there's another issue of lack of fiscal prudence, disclaimer reports in Auditor General's reports that counties cannot say that this is the way we used money. Access to information is also a big issue. Websites are dormant. Information that is supposed to be in the public domain is regarded as secret. Lack of civic education to enhance citizen knowledge on devolution system of governance, thereby affecting the quality of input during public forums. People are not informed. They go to public forums. They raise issues that are not in tandem with maybe what is being discussed. For example, I was in a place that we were discussing this county fiscal strategy paper. Then somebody just said, oh, the issue of wildlife compensation has not been adequately addressed in this paper. So we are talking about the county.
Hello. Dahir got lost when he was downloading very serious points. Dahir, I think you got lost. But thank you so much for bringing out those very strong points. Dahir, thank you for bringing out very strong points,
yes,
including the, yes. I was expecting the issue of benchmarking coming from you. Many of the county government officials have this idea of doing benchmarkings, and when they come back, we even don't see the reports. The MCAs, I think this year it was unfortunate, sorry, but we look forward to having opportunities to raise questions on these matters that all of you have actually put forward. We don't really have time based on the questions that we have. And you have touched on a number of issues that we are supposed to talk about in the next set of questions, which is about public participation. And again, just to get your views, what is the status of public participation in the counties? Is it happening? And is the quality of the participation really what was envisaged and in our constitution? And of course, maybe I will add the next question later. So let's maybe give the status and whether the counties are really appreciating public participation. I would want to start this with Mbuki.
Yes, in terms of public participation, that's a very interesting because some counties, 5 years of devolution, they had not had public participation. So this is actually something that we have been pushing as well, and especially because of young people have not been meaningfully engaged in the county processes. So we have really been pushing for the public participation bill. Most of the counties have now public participation bills, but like my colleague Mildred mentioned, that public participations also are facing a lot of challenges because you find that you have, for example, a budget process that is going on and it needs public participation. And for example, the advert is made today on the newspaper, and then you're supposed to be at the venue tomorrow. So, and how you talk about the avenues in which they use. How many young people, for example, are using those avenues to be able to access that information? And then the other thing is the timeliness of that information, because sometimes if I didn't have enough grace period for me to access that information, then I don't have time to prepare, because budgets are also, technical by themselves. So I need to look through the budget before I actually be able to contribute meaningfully. So you might find that even they don't share the budgets or the processes that are required to be participated on early enough so that people go to that meeting with proper input. So you find that public participation, they're just sharing the document right there. And then the other thing that I've also experienced in public participation is that they do not consider people who are able differently. So you find that they will come, meet up, and then there's no, for example, translation or all those mechanisms. So there are also some of those challenges. And then I've also attended some public participation. You find that counties, unfortunately, some counties were demarcated with communities. So you'll find they'll talk a certain language. If I'm a minority in that community or in that county, then I'm left out. So those are some of the challenges that I've been facing public participation. And what we've been pushing for is alternative ways of public participation. Yes, we still maintain the physical, public participation, but also we embrace online or digital ways of submitting memoranda and views. So that is something that we have been pushing, and hopefully that now most counties will be able to embrace that. But also, one of the things that we have a challenge as well with public participation is access to information. Because sometimes, yes, you might give me that whatever I'm supposed to participate, but I might need some other information for me to build up to be able to meaningfully engage in that public participation. So access to information is something that is also a big challenge in the counties, because yes, people might have, a few people have that knowledge that they are required to, or they have a right to access some information, but a majority of Kenyans also don't know or are not aware of that right to information. So that's just balancing that has been a challenge. But also those people who go ask for the information, you'll find that some information is hidden for particular interests, so that you do not, then you sort of not able to question particular information. So I think for me is, how do we ensure that we empower citizens, but also ensure that we have an accountability mechanism in the counties to ensure that the right to information exists, but also meaningful public participation also for the people.
Thank you very much, Buki. At some point, I think we lost Sheila, but I think she's back. Also something I think I got lost, but we're back.
Yeah.
So I would wish to, sorry. I would wish to push the same question to Alex. Alex, please go on.
Yes, thank you, Kelvin. In terms of public participation, I echo mostly what Mbuki has said. When we began public participation way back in 2013, I was honored to be among those institutions that were pushing for citizen participation, mobilizing citizens to attend county government meetings. And at that time, in 2014 especially, you would see that the meetings, the public participation meetings and engagements were quite well attended. And you'd even go to a meeting and find 200, 300 members of the public attending, wanting to ask questions, wanting to give their input into the budget process or into the policy documents that were being tabled. And it was quite interesting at that time. But now moving forward, as the years went by, as we went to 2015, 2016, 2017, the citizens got tired. And the level of apathy went quite high. And this is because the county governments were exercising what is referred to as placation in terms of citizen participation, where you are made to believe that you're participating, but in real sense, you're not participating. Decisions are being made in boardrooms, and you would see that whatever input you gave is actually not being captured either in the budget or in the county policy documents that are being taken up for citizen engagement. So citizens got tired, and so some counties came up with some measures, came up with policies, came up with laws to govern how the public participation process should be conducted. But other counties still opted to just do citizen participation for the sake of doing it, because as a requirement, you cannot pass your budget, you cannot pass your county documents when you have not shown that citizens were involved or engaged in the process. So in a nutshell, citizen participation at the county level is still at quite a low level, because most county governments have not embraced the fact that citizens should and actually can be involved in the decision-making process at those counties. So they still believe that since I am a county CEO, because I'm a county CEC officer, I should be given the mandate or the right to make decisions on how certain services should be delivered. And so they normally just do the public participation for the sake of showing that they have done it, but actually nothing has been done. Sometime back in 2018 or 2017, I went to a certain public forum and only 3 participants attended from an entire village. 3 people came. And that showed that the citizens were just tired. They were telling the government, and those that came blatantly told the county government officials that were there, you guys just go sit in your boardroom and make your decisions the same way you normally make them. You see, and you see that is not a good way that we are heading in terms of public participation. So I hope something can be done to rectify this situation in terms of ensuring that real citizen input is captured in the required documents, and leave can be borrowed from counties such as Makueni. Professor Kivuda Kibwana has really done a good job in ensuring that citizen input is actually captured in the county documents as received. And other counties like Elgeyo Marakwet County, but other counties, it's still quite a big challenge. Yes, Kelvin.
Thank you very much. I guess some of you have heard the term professional public participation participant. I think this is something that is happening in many counties. I have a comment here on Facebook from a gentleman called Abu Kip. He says that the public participation bill in some counties are never used as guide in engaging the people during planning and budgeting processes. They are only used to tick the box that public participation happened. So I guess that they're agreeing with the sentiments which you are sharing. And now going forward, just to look at the solutions. Dahir, what do you think could be the solutions to ensure we have proper public participation in counties?
Thank you very much, Kevin. The solution is looking at the enablers of public participation. One, we should have political goodwill environment. That is, Makueni County embraced public participation way before even having a legislation or anything else. So the county just came in, the governor said people first. So he went into people-centered development. So he said people first. I think Andumbe, that is what their slogan is. So political goodwill is very important. The second thing is having a legislation, a framework that can guide public participation. Counties are different, the dynamics and the context. The county of Mombasa, there's no village. The county of Tana River, we have villages. So you'd say, where would now the public participation start from? From the village level, then to the ward level, then upwards to the sub-county, then the county forum. So the way we should make sure that no one is left behind, from the village unit to the wards to the sub-counties up to the county forum. So legislation and framework, how is public participation going to be done, and which is now the guiding framework. Then the issue of access to information, giving information 2 weeks prior to the public forum, so that now they can go through the documents, they can discuss, because there are different constituent groups. We have women, we have youths, we have older people, we have people living with albinism, we have people living with HIV and AIDS. So, and all of their interests are different. So everybody wants to see whether the budget has anything that is good, that is talking about them. So giving these people information 2 weeks prior to the forum, that means on that particular day, they are going to give quality input. They are going to contribute in that process in a very effective way. Then venues must be accessible. They should be accessible to people living with disability, accessible to older people, accessible to women, accessible to lactating mothers. So the venues must be accessible. We cannot have a venue that is, you take where there's a bigger population, that is where the forums should be held. Instead of taking the forums to where there are few people, you should take the forums to where you would get a lot of people. Then you should operationalize the structures that enhance public participation. Those are now the County Budget and Economic Forum and the sector working groups. The sector working groups and the CBEF are the most important, because CBEF engages constituent groups in different ways. The way it's according to Article 137 of the PFM Act, the way CBEF came into being is that it's a platform where different constituent groups could gather and converge and give their views on policies, plans, and budgets. So sector working groups, that is where the bidding now takes place. Which sector should be given more funds than the other, and why? There should be a justification. You say now the health sector performed well and the agriculture sector did not perform well. They were given 20 billion. They were not able to use. So this time we are not going to give them 20 billion because they cannot justify the 20 billion that we gave them in the last financial year. Then that is where now the debate, justification, reasons why this sector should be given this amount and why this sector should be given another amount, and each sector should have justification. So that is where now the bidding takes place. Then public participation is preceded by civic education. So if there's no comprehensive civic education units in counties, there is no way people can be engaged because they are not informed. In the first place, people should understand the devolved system of government. They should understand the budget cycle starts in this month, it ends in this month, say August 30th up to June 30th. And in between, there are various decisions that are made. In the month of September, this decision is being made. October, the way they review everything, so that now they know in a certain particular time, because as much as we are going to formulate a budget, we are also implementing another budget, and we are supposed to review another budget. So it is a 3 cycle that runs concurrent. So one, we are implementing this year's budget. We are reviewing last year's budget. We are also formulating next year's budget. So these are 3 concurrent events that goes at the same time. So people should now understand, where should I come in? Where should we chip in? Which is the appropriate time that we can make our input, and our input can go into the budget. You cannot come maybe in the month of June and propose, say, we need roads to be done in a certain ward in Kakamega or a certain ward in Wajir. That will not happen, because that is the last process of the budget, and that is now the end. We cannot talk about prioritizing of projects and issues like that. So where do you come in? What is the appropriate time? Those are the issues. Then we should plan for public participation. Public participation is a process. It is not an event. Counties just take public participation like Madaraka Day. They say that is just an event. We just go go to Bukungu Stadium. We just say youths, say toeni maoni yenu. That is not the case. You should plan for it. You should budget for it. There should be a budgetary allocation that is designed for public participation from the village level to the ward, to the sub-county, to the county. In places where Nyamai is Mombasa, that is the town, I know there's no village. So that is from the ward level to the sub-county to the county level. So those are the issues that we need to consider before we even think of public participation in the first place.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dahir, and the emphasis to have law on public participation that will herald even the budgeting of the same. And,
Yes.
and I think in future with Conrad, we may have opportunities to specifically talk about public participation and the need to have public participation policies in counties, and even to guide them on how best they can budget through these policies. Like I think I and Dahir, we have examples we've done and can actually share. Yeah, can actually share the opportunities and how
in Kilifi, there was no legislation. There was no Public Participation Act. Then there was squabbling between, there was an animosity between the executive and the assembly. So we had to bring the legal affairs committee of the county assembly and the county executive department of public participation. And so they came on one table, they talked, they ironed out the issues, and now we have a Public Participation Act in place in Kilifi County that has 1% of the budget of Kilifi County goes to public participation.
I remember that lobbying that we had. So I think we can have these discussions in future, how to best help counties to have this legislation. I wish to allow Nyamai to also share a bit on her perspectives on public participation, how best it can be done, and then we can move into the next session. As we do this, I ask participants to put in questions. I will be going from about 7 sharp. I'll be taking questions. So let them come. Thank you. Welcome, Nyamai.
Okay, thank you, Kelvin, for that. And thank you, Dahir, and the other speakers who given us some elaborate solutions to curb the issue of public participation. I do not want to preempt what my colleague Dahir has said. And I think the starting point has to be the county government understanding the full threshold of public participation about the issue of informing, involving, collaborating, all the aspects, the threshold of public participation. Prior to the public participation, what does the public need? During the public participation, how do we conduct the process? After the public participation, how are the feedback mechanisms? Because we have seen in most cases, people go for a meeting. Of course, I call it an event because you are called that there will be public participation in this place. From this time, they come at 11, and then they just read what they have on table. 1 or 2, 3 people are selected to give their views, and that is over. Remember, you will have signed the participants list to show that you attended the public participation took place. And if you think this is a joke, kindly go and look at the CIDPs of all the 47 counties. Very few counties will have public participation reports. And I think there's a solution, and still building on the Makueni County public participation framework. They usually have public participation from the village level, what they call village people's forum. Then from the village they go to the sub wards. They go to the sub counties, and then the forum at the county level. You see, when you're talking about public participation, we need to inform the people that this is what we have, because this is a decision making process. And in Kenya, budget making is one of those processes where it requires a lot of public inputs. it is usually said that, you know, if you are not in the kitchen, you will not be able to influence the menu. So we have to involve wananchi in these things that they are doing. We also understand that the people have got different interests and priorities, and it can only be decided upon during such public participation. So if there is no elaborate public participation, that is why we are seeing cases of, you know, trying to give in allocation to departments which have got no capacity to absorb uncompleted projects, with beginning projects, and they are stalling on the way. So the issue of poor planning, let's engage the public from an informed point of view and giving them information. We already have counties which have got a public participation act, like my county in Mombasa. We do have a public participation act of 2017, and currently we are developing public participation policy. But have we implemented the public participation act? To mention others, Turkana County has a public participation act. Elgeyo Marakwet the same. Makueni County the same. I said that, and some other counties. So the big question should be, to what extent are we implementing these public participation acts? And on the issue of, you know, availability of the budget documents, you see, it is hard to engage from what you don't know. And even when you are going to a meeting and you do not have an idea what the document entails, then you will not engage, and you will not engage because you don't understand. You will not engage because you got the information late, and that calls for availing the information, not given to me as Nyamai because you know me, but putting it on publicly available sites, and that is the county government official websites. A survey carried by International Budget Partnership Kenya in 2019 showed that only one county had 7 documents available, and that was Laikipia County. Other counties like Elgeyo Marakwet, Baringo County, Kitui County, they had at least 5 documents in their website. So that shows how the information gap can really affect public participation. Let the county upload the information, and not just uploading the information that you are giving to the citizen. How quality is that information? Because you can even give me a document, and at the end of the day, ile information kwa natafuta, it is not even there, because you just put it there because of you are supposed to, the law states that. So let's check on the kind of the quality and the quantity of information that we upload. So let's look public participation from a point of not being a quantitative process, but rather both quality and quantity. Quantity, I'm referring to people. You are going to tell the ward administrators to bring people. Of course, the mobilization will be done on who you know. So there are some sections of the population who are not going to be represented, and the interests of those people will not be captured at the end of the day. Another thing, we need to have the counties following, trying to formulate their budgets in accordance to their policy and planning documents, such as the CIDPs. Because if they formulate the budget in accordance to the CIDPs and the ADPs, then we will not have problems. We will have a budget for the public participation. And another thing, as a solution to that, let's have a public participation that is involved, that has got involvement from all the segments of the societies. We have CBEFs. I'm told in our country we have CBEF, but I don't think it's functional. How functional is the budget structure that we have in the counties? Do we have sector working groups? We have organized groups like border operators. We have matatu operators. We have mama mbogas at the market. Who brings the views of those people to the table? And after people, nowadays people, the public, they are gaining momentum in writing memorandums, submissions, and petitions. Do they get feedback for what they deliver? That is the next question that we need to ask our government. Because another aspect of public participation is you being able to give feedback to extent to which Wajiko's views were put into consideration. And if they were not put into consideration, you need to give us justification why you gave us mradi wa maji and not mradi wa stima. We need to see that kind of feedback from the county government.
Fair enough, Josephine. Fair enough, Josephine. Thank you so much. I wish Governor Joe was listening to you. Could have called you tomorrow to start discussing how to set up this framework to work. Kevin.
I don't know whether you can allow me to just add on something.
Yes, it's you. I want to give a chance. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. And I think it is important for us to begin to underscore public participation, because I've listened to my co-panelists and I'm a little bit worried because the manner in which devolution is being done in this country, unless the citizens understand their sovereign power, we will lose it, and we will lose it totally. The person who is seated there as a CEC is appointed, rather nominated by the person we elected, is vetted by people that we voted for.
Elected.
And yes, exactly. And ultimately, the power to exercise that authority from our voting perspective. So we begin to ask ourselves, has the governor ensured that there is policy or a law? I think it is important for us to also ask ourselves, what is my role? Before I ask whether they have posted this thing on insofar as County Governments Act 2012 is concerned, for any public participation measures, you need to have advertised it for at least a number of days on any two widely spread newspapers. Before I ask whether that has been done, in Kenya today, and from a very conventional perspective, and looking at which country is mapped out through the counties, it will not be able to get a citizen-led group that is organized effectively, that can be able to access bundles and have a WhatsApp group, or has a Twitter account, or has a Facebook account that they can be able to use to rally their numbers around this issue that we are calling public participation. Because the government will not do as much as the law requires them to be able to ensure that the citizens participate. We know the story and we know how it's being done. At the time my friend is being mobilized, a few people are being mobilized. Why am I not being mobilized, and why am I not stopping that kind of insincere mobilization of very important decisions in my county? So I think we talk about public participation, we also begin to ask ourselves, what is my role in ensuring that my county works? Because the governor will be there for only 5 years, and if he or she lucky will be there for 10 years, and that's it. The county will continue to exist, and we are hoping that the kind of services that are being delivered will be services that will outgrow whatever county government. I think since, not Cynthia Nyamai, but Nyamai already began the conversation around how are we ensuring that citizens are actually being not just participants, and it's you, Kelvin, who began the conversation around permanent workshop attendance, permanent public participation goers, people who will always, in every meeting you go to in a county, and about 17 friends that I have met in more than, I think, 24 counties, that you always find them in those kinds, and they know whatever you want to say. They already know even before you say it. How do we begin the conversation around having them as TOTs, or using the local homegrown civil society organizations, citizen-driven networks, to partner with county governments, not to be antagonistic around counties, because there is no governor also to be seated in a boardroom with somebody who is always only seeing the negative things. Oh, governor, hukuweka budget vizuri. Oh, governor, kwa nini umefanya hivi? I think as we move forward and from the lessons that we are learning, counties have to engage in what a multi-stakeholder engagement, where the citizen, like the Mambogas, say, in some counties, every morning, some friends of mine walking with some machines, where the Mamboga has to pay at least 50 shillings, and then they are given a receipt. Who is this person who is going to organize them to be able to have their decisions count? For the board, like in Nairobi, running every day with the Kanjos, they are being arrested, you know? Who is actually organizing them to be able to ensure that they have a say in how the urban area of Nairobi is being run? You know, the private sector, who is actually engaged from a civil society perspective with the private sectors in our counties, even Kenya National Chamber of Industry, KNCCI, to be able to ensure that during their forums, that the citizens are being mobilized, those whose interests are in that particular subject. Then move it from there, Kelvin, to what we are calling sector working groups. Because unless you tell Amamamboka that, by the way, you can easily fall within the agricultural sector or the industry sector, I never understand. Whereas some of them have degrees, but there is no one who is taking that deliberate engagement to want to with them. Before my county comes with big documents, and I have a degree or I am well endowed with knowledge to be able to understand how to break down this document, what is my role as far as helping these people who are being behind in breaking these documents? I'll tell you for free, there are areas where we have actually stopped public participation meetings from going on because people are never not prepared. They have come with huge documents, and from a pragmatic perspective, we say they are co-stakeholders in this county. We have special interest in water service delivery, for example. Water is very core to our interests. Can we postpone this meeting a point in time when you as the CC, the director and the chief officer can sit with the citizen-driven organizations in your county and agree even on how to mobilize the people. In our areas where we live, like a gentleman right said, Mombasa, maybe there are no villages. Lakini kuna vile ambavyo watu wanaketi pengine wakichonga miraa ama wanapiga domo ama wanachapa ile ajua. There is a way in which people organize themselves in those particular counties, Kelvin. How do we take advantage of it? As September 2019, over 22 counties out of 47 have passed a public participation law. It doesn't help if we don't break it down to understand the interests of citizens in that particular law. For example, public participation. As chief officer, I will tell you, there is no one who determines the number of people who must fill a hall decision to be made. But 14,000 voted for an MCA. How do we ensure that at least 3/4 of the 14,000 are making a decision on important issues that are being made in that particular ward or in that particular county, Kelvin? So I think even as we talk about the CBEFs, we can talk about sector working groups, we can talk about, for instance, behind me, there is a big banner called Defend My Future. The president made a directive that all 47 counties need to come up with an action plan to prevent and counter violent extremism. Unless we break down that plan to the people and use it to ensure that they participate in governance, they will never understand. And so we'll be throwing stones at the county, Amufanyi, but the governor will tell you, I have worked with the county assembly to be able to ensure that this law is going on. CEC has already submitted a paper on a policy is going to be very instrumental. Unless we begin to ask ourselves, what is my sovereign power as a voter, as a resident of that county? How can I partner with the county government to make devolution work and to make public participation work? They are going to take advantage of our own ignorance and our own inability to seek to get involved and get effectively engaged to pass laws that are not consistent with our aspirations. They are going to positions where our voices have not been heard. The moment you say a petition and you are never heard, Kevin. The law gives you the through your sovereignty to be able to ask questions, even sue the county government, Kelvin.
Fair enough, Kevin. Thank you. You now see why I put you last, because you were actually going to nail it and say that the issue is actually with us citizens, that we need to have citizen responsibility, even as we throw the blame to our duty bearers, we as the people need to be responsible enough. And I think, again, to challenge us, those of us who have the privilege to be leading organizations, we need to continue pushing the agenda of civic education and really pushing for governance issues. So allow me to take a few questions from the participants, then we can proceed. There were specific questions going to specific panelists. I will be picking one from Kreko, directed to Kevin Osido. Do you agree with the following observations? In most counties, public participation has lost meaning in most counties because of predetermined allocation of funds to projects by MCAs and CCs. Public participation has lost meaning in most counties because predetermined allocation of funds to projects by MCAs and CCs. I think they mean that probably public participation happens because there are certain money allocated which these particular officers will benefit from. Then the second question also, does rubber stamping of project prioritization happen in most counties? Does rubber stamping of project prioritization happen in most counties? That is a question to Kevin Osido. Same from Kreko, a question to Mildred Nzau. Devolution is currently being perceived as national government giving counties money to implement projects. This is contrary to the Constitution of Kenya 2010. How do we correct this false perception? I hope you got it, Mildred. Okay, then there is a question to Alex Yator. Devolution is currently viewed to have balkanized Kenya into tribal blocks, because if employment records and practices by county public service boards and governors, it is true that devolution has eroded national values and principles of governance, in bracket Article 10 of the Constitution. This, I think, did come out clearly, but going by my experience in counties, you find that if you go to Mombasa, the highest population of employees come from that region. If you come to my county, Vihiga, the same. If you go to Kisumu, the same. And in fact, county officers at times even start speaking their local languages in the offices. I have another open question from Mwalimu Kiai. Can the country come up with a time frame for entire deliberation of devolution? Can the country come up with a time frame for entire deliberation of devolution? This question, I will throw it to Mbuki. So we can take those questions. We can start with the Kevin.
So thank you so much for these questions. Greco is a very close partner of the work that we do at County Governance Watch and in the counties. And I am in total agreement with the observations. That really is where the point is. How do organizations like Greco and ourselves and several others, particularly those homegrown county-based organizations, facilitate public participation? Now, what we have seen as an experience is that MCAs, particularly those who sit in the budget committee, and almost all MCAs except for those nominated, unless otherwise, are members of specific sector committees within the assembly. And these are people who live where we live. How do we take advantage of that particular venture, ceteris paribus, all the conflict of interest issues, because maybe different MCAs also are pushing for different perspectives of interest. But how can we be able to take advantage of the fact that we have some experience in terms of engaging with them, to use it to ensure that allocation of funds and resources actually done in a manner in which is in the best interest of the citizens? What we have seen happening is that MCAs use, for example, the privilege of representation, oversight, and making laws, particularly when it comes to the budget cycle and conversations around the budget, to lobby for their own interests. So they even threaten governors with petitions. They tell them, if you do not pass this towards, will not pass your budget as it is. So we have seen a lot of double dealing or dealings going on in counties insofar as executive and county assemblies are concerned. So I think as Greco is raising this very important question, we also need to ask ourselves, 7 years into devolved, the second generation CIDPs, or rather devolved governance, what lessons have we been able to learn insofar as budget processes, decision making, and also engagement between county assemblies and the executive, with or of course with special emphasis on putting the interest of the citizens first, because tomorrow those MCAs will not be MCAs. Remember, it is a one-term 5-year period. Unless you are lucky and your people love what you are doing, you go in for a second term. And the same is for all those 6 positions. The second issue is rubber stamping, and I agree, because once the first question about dealings with the executive are dealt with, and they basically present projects to the county assembly, and they are rubber stamped, because a lot of grassroots, or rather groundwork, has already been done insofar as massaging the egos and selfish interests of people who are pushing for things which are not within the interest of the citizens. So I think it would be very important for organizations like County Governance Watch, ECO, and several others that are homegrown and grassroots based to be able to develop interest in what is happening at the counties and empower the citizens, particularly those citizen networks, to be able to ask very pertinent questions. And I think from us, Kelvin, what we have learned as an organization is soft skills diplomacy in engaging with county governor, rather the county government through the governor or the chief of staff or the county secretary, very, very fundamental. And then the speakers panel, majority, minority, the speaker, deputy speaker, and the clerk of assembly. Very fundamental when you want to be able to push certain decisions. And then actually to engage with the MCAs, really, because they're the ones who ultimately make the decisions by voting or having conversations in the assembly. And the County Governments Act also allows us to walk into the assembly and sit at the public gallery, so that for whatever interest that we have already made our lobbying around, let's go into the assemblies, ask for special pass to be able to pass through the gate, and then into the assembly and sit and listen to conversations that are going on, including how our voices are being made to count by the people that are representing us, because that's the second level of sovereignty of the people and how it is being exercised. I hope that I have been able to deal with those 2 questions within that limited time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Allow us to go to Mildred, then Alex.
Thank you. So just maybe to rephrase the question, it's on the perception that national government is giving money to counties to implement projects, which is contrary to the constitution. So in terms of how money is allocated to the county, there are 2 ways. One, depending on the devolved functions. So there are functions that are carried out by the county government and are funded by county government, and that there are functions that are supported by national government, which is more of the infrastructure, networking, top-level kind of projects. So when we look at those 2, we have to think about how this is funded, and that's why we are having a debate in the floor of the Senate on the revenue allocation formula. So thinking about how we need to allocate monies to the counties from the national cake. So this is not money held by national government for national government, but more of how we split the national cake per county. So that is the money that is usually sent to Treasury and then allocated to the county for their own functions. Alongside that, we also have the county revenues that they also generate amongst themselves. So when you're looking at these 2 ways, when you think about why we are actually perceiving national government to be the ones that hold the check that goes to the county, is because of the allocation to the counties from the national cake. And part of this perception is fueled by the fact that, we have very late disbursements from Treasury that always tend to hold up county government implementation. So in terms of really correcting that perception, I think we need to be thinking about ways in how we hold Treasury accountable for ensuring that we don't hold county governments hostage when it comes to implementation.
Thank you very much, Mildred. Alex?
Yes, thank you, Kreko, for that question. I think that is a question that deserves quite a deep debate, because we have come politically from an era where the president, or the person that held the highest office in the land, would give political goodies to regions and to persons based on how they voted for them, or how they supported their political will, or how they easily toe the line, or how they easily jump when they're told to jump, to an era where now you're told under Article 174, we are giving you to devolution so that you can be able to manage your own affairs. And Article 174 actually may be the reason why we are experiencing this challenge of counties and county governments not being able to meet the threshold of ensuring that 30% of those employed are from different ethnic groups or from different regions, apart from those that come from the county. Because when that article says that we are bringing you devolution so that you can be able to manage your own affairs, loosely translated, it means tunawapepe senu mjipange. And you see, when you tell me something like that, tunawapepe senu mjipange, a local mwananchi will understand that you've given us our money, let us employ our people, let us do our services, and let us do our things the way we know at our local level. So when you ask that person that now you, this is for instance, this is a Luo nation, kindly bring in a Kikuyu to help you manage your own affairs, some people do not understand that. So largely I do blame that part of the constitution for that problem that we're facing. Although the County Governments Act tried to rectify that by giving the provision that we should ensure that 30% of the employment opportunities at least go to non-locals, or people that do not come from those regions. And again, if you look at how we do politics in Kenya, if I am running for the position of governor today, and Kelvin, you've really been on my back, you've really supported me, you've really come in terms of giving me resources, you've really brought in your clan, your friends to vote for me. When I win this position, and I have some positions within the county government that need to be filled, who would I consider first? Would I consider you, or would I consider someone that is an unlocal that comes from outside? And I think that is where the problem comes in. Because when these governors go in, they have made a lot of promises to people. They have people that they need to give back to. So they end up having a dilemma. Who do we employ? Who do we give these positions? Are these people that when I vie for the next in the next election will be able to come in strongly and defend me, or will I just give it out to someone else? So in 2016, NCIC did a research and they found that 30 out of 47 counties had actually not met the requirement of ensuring that 30% of those positions go to non-locals. And this is a problem that we will keep seeing unless something really stringent is done. So when Kreko said that, did we develop ethnicity? To a large extent, yes, because when you're told to manage your own affairs, it means, and considering how these counties are, let's be honest. Considering how these counties are, counties were drawn, the lines between the boundaries of counties were drawn based on where certain ethnic groups are. The lines of sub-counties were drawn based on where certain ethnic groups were. So when you tell them, now we've brought you devolution so that you can manage your own affairs, it's like you're telling a certain ethnic community living in a certain area, please manage your own affairs. So this is a topic that really needs a discussion. And I was hoping that maybe under the new BBI or the new referendum push, we can consider amending some of these positions in the constitution so that we can be able to be clear enough so that a common man can understand what you're saying when you're telling the manager on affairs. Yes, Kevin.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Buki.
Thank you so much, Kaya. Was speaking of Alex, who has brought out the gaps in the constitution and talking about BBI, it's a very challenging question. And I'll share my views. These are my personal views, not any organization. But of course, when you're talking about shared prosperity, one of the pointers of BBI, which I don't support, I think we should give this constitution and devolution a chance, to be able to serve the people of this country. So it's a very tricky question to answer, because then it sort of pushes me to that conversation, but I'll try and refocus. But then for me, when you're talking about coming up with a time frame for the entire deliberation of devolution, is to say that, yes, we have been having devolution conferences to be able to review the sort of what's the impact of devolution. But unfortunately, the way the devolution conferences have gone, they have not been quite there have not been an accountability mechanism. And we're hoping that the Council of Governors especially would be that body where they would come together and sort of, check each other. What are you doing? Where can we collaborate? Some of those things. So for me, I expected structures like Council of Governors would be come in handy, where they come sort of identify areas of collaboration, but also check what are you doing right, what are you doing right, and what can I learn from you. So unfortunately, we hear that some counties, for example, have a proper mechanism of public participation. Yet we have a Council of Governors which cannot be able to borrow some of that framework and try and help other counties to replicate. So for me is, in terms of when you talk about a time frame, I think we need to sort of rethink how the devolution conferences are designed, so that in a way that they sort of look inwards. What is the progress? What have we committed this year, for example, and how much have we achieved? So I think the devolution conferences basically are a place where we can deliberate, where the Council of Governors and the whole, the Secretariat of the Council of Governors can be able to look inwards and see what are the gaps that exist within the devolution and how can we address it. Because it looks like it's a gentleman's platform where they sort of try and cover up for each other when they're in trouble. But I think it should be a situation where it's an accountability mechanism to be able to ensure that they deliver the services or devolution to the people of this country. So yes, that's what I would say. Not focusing so much on BBI and shared prosperity.
Let us avoid the discussion on BBI. We are not discussing BBI today, but of course it will pop up. Tutaweza onana hapo nyuma ya tent ya black. Sasa we can go to the next question. And this question goes to Dahir. What advice would you give to local CSOs to help them push for constructive or effective public participation and ultimately ensure involvement of the public in these forums? What advice would you give to those local CSOs to help them push for constructive, effective public participation and ultimately ensure involvement of the public in these forums? It is a question from Collins Muredi from Tharaka Nithi County. Then we have a question from Evelyn Madai. This question will go to Nyamai. How can counties ensure that resources are distributed in an equitable manner, horizontally across wards? This has been an impediment to the development of some wards due to favoritism or some over others, especially those that are considered voting strongholds or home grounds for the leaders. So how can counties go about ensuring that all wards in the counties access resources for the purposes of development? That question will go to Nyamai. So Dahir, you can start. You are muted, Dahir. You are muted. Unmute.
Okay, thank you. How can CSOs ensure that they forge a united ground? Is by forming a partnership. There's always an infighting between CSOs networks, CBOs, associations, women groups, youth groups, such that when they are engaging with the county government is one entity. It cannot engage with various different amorphous groups. So the biggest and the best way forward is forging a partnership, a network, a very strong network, so that now they can coalesce their issues around the network. Instead of saying we are meeting the county governor as maendeleo wanawake, then tomorrow the youth group association wants to meet the governor, then another day MCAs, another group wants, you see, back and forth, so many civil society organization groups asking different issues who are not united, and there's so much infighting between them. So the best way forward is having a strong platform, a strong network, and they coalesce the issues around the network so that when they are engaging, they engage as a network and they don't engage as individuals, or they don't engage as CBOs or associations or youth groups.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Nyamai, Josephine.
Thank you, Care, for bringing the question of equity. How can counties ensure that resources are distributed in equitable manner horizontally across the wards? You will agree with me that when it comes to resource sharing, there's a lot of politics. So I'm just going to be straightforward with the answer. There's a county known as Elgeyo Marakwet, which has instituted a law which is known as Elgeyo Marakwet County Equitable Development Act. So this is an act that guides, that ensures equity, inter-ward and intra-county equity in terms of distribution of projects. So for the counties, I think number one, for the counties to start having this discussion, we need to have maybe a framework. And if you go to Elgeyo Marakwet County, it has been one of the counties that has invested a lot in ensuring equity across the wards and in the counties. And another thing, I think we need to have these discussions from the word go in the annual development plan when we are prioritizing for the incoming year's budget. Who are making these decisions? Do we have MCAs on table? Do we have the public on table? Because I'm not going to mention the county, but there has always been a complaint that particular areas within the county, they get a lot of projects compared to the others. So as you have brought up a very good question about equity. We are discussing equity at the top level, but we are also having equity as issues being experienced within the county. So I think number one, we need to have a framework guiding equitable distribution of projects within the counties. And also we need also to involve the public and the concerned parties, and these are the MCAs, in the allocation of the projects across the wards. Thank you.
Thank you. And time is not on our side, but there are people raising their hands. I want to ask somebody with Oppo to ask a question. So just let me try. Go ahead. Oppo A5. Okay. And then TechnoSpark, if Oppo is not going through. TechnoSpark. TechnoSpark 2, you are raising your hand.
Kelvin, you need to unmute them.
It's them who, unless Sheila does it, I don't have the powers.
I am asking them to unmute themselves because I threw the hosting to Dahir a while ago to share the screen. So Dahir, kindly put me back as the host, but as a co-host, I've actually asked them to unmute themselves. They can kindly type in your questions. Just type in your questions on the Q&A platform or the chat platform. Techno and Oppo.
Okay, I'm just trying to be sensitive so that I can be evaluated as a good moderator. But now that technology is failing us, we can go ahead with our discussion. Now let's go to PFM issues, public finance. TechnoSpark is asking a question. TechnoSpark. Mopotea mitini. Techno. Okay, let's go ahead. And now a question on public finance management. A number of counties have recently been found with challenges on financial management. So basically, just to get your views, how have counties been able to be accountable on the resources that they've been given and in the management of those resources? So, and if at all they've actually followed the law as required. So I'll take 3 responses to that. Then we'll go to part B of the section. So I'll take Alex, I'll take Josephine, and Dahir. So we can start in that order.
Yes, Kelvin. That's quite a tough one. And in terms of management of resources, I think counties have done, I will give them a 50-50. They have done fairly well. In some sectors, they have done well. In some sectors, they have done quite not so good. Remember, in the first phase of the election cycle of under devolution between 2013 and 2017, we had, it was like a drama, it was another Afro cinema, because we would see the Senate trying to summon some governors to come and explain some expenditures. On the other hand, the governors would say, you are a senator, you have no authority to summon me and ask me questions on how I'm spending money in my county, and all that. And it became a situation where it's like the counties and the Senate were trying to show who is superior and who is not. So in terms of management of resources, I would give some counties a positive note. As progressively, as we keep moving forward, you will see that the Auditor General's reports keep getting better and better. Sometime back in around 2014, the reports from the Auditor General's office were quite grave. You would see some expenditures that were really not up to par. And as time goes, if you read the Auditor General's reports from 2018, 2019, you will see some great improvements. So I think I give this back to the fact that counties or those that work, especially in the departments of finance, have time understood how county resources are supposed to be spent, how they're supposed to be accounted for, the roles of the county governments. Sometime back in 2018, where the former governor of Kiambu was accused of spending some huge amounts of money on national government project expenditures. That tells you that at that level, even some governors would not understand what roles they are supposed to have been implementing as counties. And speaking about that, I think there needs to be more clear definition of what counties can and cannot do and what the national government can and cannot do. In terms of cessation of power, you'll see that the national government to some extent has not been willing to secede the power of counties being able to execute some duties. That is why we still have the NGCDF, the national government CDF still there, where you'll see the members of National Assembly executing duties at the local level that are supposed to be executed by the respective counties. Yeah, so in terms of execution of duties, in terms of utilization of resources, I would give counties a 50% fair chance, owing to the fact that some governors are still new. But yes, we've seen some quite good progress in terms of utilization of those resources.
Thank you. Nyamai.
Thank you, Kea, for that. So the question of how best counties have been able to spend what they have been allocated, I would narrow down to the question of budget credibility. How best counties spend the resources that they planned for. So evidence shows that all the counties, they are unable to spend at least 20% of their total budget. They are unable to absorb 20% of their budgets. And you know, this is a challenge that is attributed to slow disbursement. For example, looking at allocation from 2013, 2014 to around 2017, 2018, you will find that most of the allocation comes in during towards the end of the quarter, the final quarter of the financial year. And also the disbursement comes in so slowly. So you find that at the end of the day, counties are unable to absorb. So we need to analyze those problems that underline the counties as far as budget credibility is concerned. Number two, about how counties have been able to prudently, okay, we understand that we operate under limited resources, but how best are you managing the resources that you have been allocated? I would say that that is still a loophole in most of the counties. I think from the latest Auditor General's report, it's only 2 counties that got unqualified opinion of the Auditor General, and unqualified here means that was a clean bill of health. And you find that most of the other counties, some of them had disclaimer, others had adverse opinion, whereby the financial statements cannot even be used to form an opinion. So we are seeing, we are acknowledging that the problems that they are there in terms of cash flow disbursements, but again, trying to gauge how counties are able to manage the sparring resources that they are given. We still note there are gaps in the utilization of those resources. And the evidence here, they look at the reports, the Auditor General's reports that we have. So I think counties still have a long way to go in terms of ensuring that the little that they have, they are managing it prudently and in accordance to the law. And I think the other issue that is leading to, that is being attributed to counties being unable to spend the money as they have planned is the issue of the supplementary budgets. You'll find that in a year, a county will have done like more than 5 supplementary budgets. And that is an indication of poor planning. Yeah. Ideally, you would imagine that the supplementary budgets are making, they are making the budgets more realistic. But then that is not the case. You find that even after passing a supplementary budget, you find that absorption rate is still very, very, very low. And another thing I think that the county need to address is the issue of revenue, local revenue allocation. In the formula that brought a lot of controversy and discussion in the nation recently, there was an aspect of physical prudence and physical effort, and that is a parameter that was carrying almost 4%, and unfortunately it did not make into the final formula that was approved by the Senate. So her county is able we understand that all the counties do not have the same capacity in terms of collecting revenue. For example, you'll find that the revenue that Mombasa has the capacity to raise, it is not the same revenue that Tana River or even Turkana as the capacity to raise. So how our county being incentivized to be able to raise our revenue very well and stop the overdependence from the national government, that is on equitable share and conditional grants. So trying to gauge in terms of financial accountability and transparency, counties have still a long, long way to go in terms of management of the resources that they are allocated to them. Even having cognizant of the underlying challenges that we have, I think they can still do better. Let them be more open, let them plan well, have a good plan in the budgets, so that at the end of the day, they will be able to implement what they planned prudently and in accordance to the law.
Thank you, Nyamai. Thank you very much. Dahir?
Thank you, Kevin. From where I sit, I have few factors that can enhance proper management of finances in the counties. One is the issue of strengthening internal audit unit. Counties have very weak internal audit departments or the audit committees. So that one leads to a lot of leakages and pilferage and misappropriation of funds. So all expenditure should be audited first. So internal audit committees and units should be strengthened. The second point is now the independence of accounting officers. There's a lot of conflict of interest from the county heads of the county governor, the deputies, and the CECs. So the county, the accounting officers, the chief officers in the various departments should be independent so that they can carry out their functions without any interference. Then there's the issue of counties should adhere to, they should enhance fiscal prudence, proper utilization of funds. Counties were complaining that they were given meager resources. A county like Lamu is getting about less than 3 billion. Tana River is getting around 7.8 billion. Mombasa is getting 7 billion. So are we utilizing what we have before we even now start a discussion of saying this is not enough? So proper utilization of funds, instead of having a dispensary constructed for 20 or 25 million. So they inflate the contract prices because of the issue of kickbacks and the 10%. So there's also the issue of sticking to appropriated budget. There's a lot of deviation within the year. Counties start off very well. Then along the second quarter, they would say, oh, there were unforeseen events. There were things that we did not plan for. Like Tana River, we normally say there's drought. There's drought in every year. And they say that was an unforeseen event. We did not plan for that. So that's very unfortunate. So deviating from the budget that is already approved, that means it is going to affect a lot of planned programs and projects, and definitely affecting service delivery. The last issue is adhering to reporting standards. We are supposed to have a quarterly implementation report in every quarter. So if you look at the Auditor General's report, in every subsequent year annual consolidated report, the Auditor General is complaining that counties always submit their reports very late, or sometimes he has to rely on IFMIS to generate his own report because counties cannot bring the reports at the required time. So if we cannot have the quarterly implementation reports, that means there's no way we can track the budget quarterly or even monthly or even the whole year. So tracking of those budgets means we are supposed to have quarterly implementation so that we understand the various challenges that the various sectors are facing. Although, an example, Kevin, you'd see that there's a late disbursement of funds. Funds are expected in this month, October. But at the end of the year, you would see Agriculture Department has an absorption rate of 30%, while a department like Roads and Public Works has an absorption rate of around 98 or even 100%. So if money came at the same time, then why is there that the difference? Where is the difference coming from? Because late disbursement of funds is affecting all sectors across. So if we got the money in October, why is it that this sector is at this level and we have another sector at this level? Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have about 8 minutes to finish. I would want to pick Kevin's input. 1 minute, please, Kevin. Osido.
On the issue of financing.
Yes. The solution.
I think for me, Kelvin, if you look at the economic survey of 2020, which projects that basically estimates that the economy grew by 5.4% in 2019, compared to a growth of 6.3% in 2018. And this growth is, from what we were told, is basically ascribed to service-oriented sectors, which are domiciled, a majority of them at the county levels. And for county finances, I think, as my colleagues have rightfully said, and I agree with a number of sentiments, looking at a total projected revenue for budget implementation in the 2019-2020 amounting to almost 332.49 billion. And this includes Equitable share, the money we are seeing senators and counties arguing about. Its basis, or what we are calling the formula, which is 216.5 billion, and then conditional grants from the national government, part of what His Excellency the President was talking about, 61 billion, and then projected on-source revenue of 54 billion shillings. for me, I think the major issue would be in how counties can be able to do three things. One is ensure on-source revenue. And I think Nyamai has brought up this issue about counties' ability to generate revenue. If we create job opportunities for the youth in counties, identify stronger points for counties, value addition areas, so that we know which county has what strengths. And the beauty of this, Kelvin, is that counties are now also demarcated as economic blocks. The Lake Region Economic Block, which counties out of the 14 are good in what. You go to the coast, Jumuiya ya counties of Pwani, out of the 6 counties, which counties are good in what. You go to Mount Kenya and Aberdares, out of the 11 counties in that area, you should know that Murang'a is good in milk production and all that. So if counties can be able to begin laying emphasis on areas of strength towards putting money in the pockets of people, then definitely going to be money for counties to get back in form of taxes, whatever, either taxes or levies or any other source that is constitutional and is in line with the Public Finance Management Act. So on-source revenue. Number 2 is fiscal prudence, what my colleagues are talking about. And that is one of the key principles of public finance management as is ascribed in the Constitution. And that is in chapter 12, talks about public finance management. Now, one of those key areas would be open governance. Let information be open to people. And having talked about open governance, ensure that citizens can be able to, at their very local areas, access information. That means let counties invest in internet. And out of the 47 counties, only Uasin Gishu County has tried to ensure that up the sub-county levels, that access to internet is available. And that is a best practice that through Council of Governors and other stakeholders involved in devolution, we can be able to empower citizens to also be able to ensure that their counties are much more accountable through ensuring that I don't have to walk to the DCCs or the ward administrators or to the MCA's office to access information. So open governance and then feedback mechanism so that then citizens can be able to also access this information. And Dahir has mentioned the issue about late disbursement of funds to counties. National government must do its work in enabling counties to deliver services to the people. The politics around late disbursement of funds to counties and stifling of resources. Of course, you said that BBI is not a conversation of today, but if you look at the proposals of percentages of county resources from national to county levels, I think it's commendable. But why must we wait for such very high octane, high level, politically polarized moments for us to have conversations around interest of citizens insofar as how services are supposed to be delivered? Lastly, on this, I think it's important that
order. Time is not on our side, Kevin.
let citizens get involved. Let's ask for appointment into the CBEFs. Let's ask questions around what's happening with the county budget economic fora. Let people get involved in decision-making processes and how resources are being used at the county level. It doesn't help to tweet about a corrupt governor when you know very well that you attended 0 county-based conversations around CIDP, ADP, annual development plan, supplementary budgets, or any platform that was called not to ask questions around important issues. It doesn't help to post this online.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Kevin. You actually sounded like you are making your parting shot, so I will deny you at last minute.
I have no problem, sir. It is 3 minutes to 8, and I have another meeting as well. I have no problem with that.
So kindly, don't feel bad. What we're saying is that we want to take the last round section, but quickly, just give your thoughts about the role of the media in actually ensuring accountability and, putting the systems to check. Media is a big player in watching and analyzing. So could you give us your views on the role of the media, how best it can work, as you do your parting shots for us to finish?
So Kelvin,
Sheila, just a minute.
Are you asking or someone else?
Sorry?
Are you asking me on the role of media or panelists?
no, we want to take from each panelist, but I'm asking for permission from Sheila whether we can extend with another 5 or so minutes.
Yes, that's okay.
Okay, because we started late.
Yeah. Sure.
So I'll start with Mildred quickly.
Thanks. I think when it comes to the role of the media, we've all really been seeing across the media splattered. It's almost every week that we can actually see a new scandal in the making being reported. So I think I'd rate the media quite highly in terms of breaking this news to us and exposing it. But even as I say that, let's not forget the role of brown envelope journalism that has also been happening, where they actually control what it is that we can be told in the press or not. Whether or not we will admit to it, we know that it's a problem that is ailing the fourth estate. In terms of improving how the media shares this information with the citizens, I'd just like to touch on 2 things. One, it's on the issue of follow-up. So we will have a breaking scandal every week, but hardly ever will we ever see what happened after everything was broken. Did it just die out? We need that tenacity to keep following up on the stories and actually hold to a higher esteem the government and even that role that they play in terms of informing the citizen. The second thing I'd like to say in terms of improving the role of the media is that a lot of our journalists are not experts in governance, in accountability, or in budget. So we need to really work closely and collaborate with these media factions just to ensure that they have the facts right, they're able to actually articulate the right information in a way that the public can be able to digest that. Even as a parting shot, I'd just like to leave it with a few things. 2 things when it comes to devolution. There's demand and there's supply. On the demand side, it's really up to us to be able to stand up and say, we the people demand for this, because that is the power that the Constitution gives to us. So we need to be able to say, how can we organize to ensure that communities and people and young people are actually participating in planning, in budgeting, in implementation, and most importantly, in monitoring. How can we ensure that even as they're taking part in this processes, they understand and we break it down to them. I think as CSOs and citizen-facing organizations, we really need to play our key role in terms of civic engagement, but even us doing that as civil society doesn't exclude the government from its core mandate, because this is a primary mandate of the government to be able to inform its citizenry. When you think about the public participation bill, one of the objectives is really to ensure that the citizens understand the processes of government. It is their mandate. It is not civil society mandate. It is not an individual mandate. It is the government's mandate. But we also need to work together with them and collaborate to ensure that this can get done. On the supply side of things, we really need to think about how, I'm concluding, yeah? On the supply end of things, we really need to think about, as government, how are we articulating the information that we are putting out there? How are we addressing the intersectionalities of the communities that we are serving? And how are we adhering to open governance? Opening up our governance and our practices is the first key thing that we need to do to build credibility and legitimacy of devolution and governance. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mildred. Alex Yato?
Yes, Kelvin, I strongly echo what Mildred has said in terms of what the role the media has played. I think the media has really played a big role in trying to ensure that counties especially are more transparent in what they do. But this role has been left out mainly to the mainstream media, the big media houses, the NTVs, the KTNs, the Citizens and the likes. But more, there is need to have the local media houses, especially those that work at the community level, being empowered to be able to start doing these pieces, these exposés. That we need people like in Alanamu at the local level. We need the local media houses to start doing those pieces on what is happening in terms of utilization of resources at the village. Imagine if from your village in Viga County, Kelvin, one of the local media houses came there, did a piece on how the governor was not able to utilize some certain amount of resources that were allocated to building a certain toilet in your village. Imagine how that would go. So I think there is more that needs to be done in terms of empowering those local media houses to be able to start doing an extra piece in terms of promoting transparency and accountability. But so far they've done really, really a good job. The mainstream media houses have done a good job. So for my parting shot, for me, I think county governments have done well, but there's more that needs to be done in terms of generation of revenue. Right now, when there was that impasse at the Senate, when there was the impasse on the revenue sharing, you'd see that some counties were even thinking about shutting down because they do not even have funds to pay staff salaries. That tells you that largely the county governments depend on resources that come from the national government. So I think counties need to become more and more creative. The day counties will be able to do business, generate own revenue, come up with ways and means of ensuring that they have in their coffers sufficient resources to even pay for staff overheads and stuff like that, is the day we will say that we've really had devolution, and it's the day we can say that counties can actually be able to say they are managing their own affairs, not just coming up with laws or policies that tax even the most basic of things like dogs, chicken, and stuff like that, but just basically to come up with business opportunities, create business opportunities within the county governments so that government can be able to generate and make sufficient resources to last beyond resources that come from the national government. Otherwise, thank you all, and it was a pleasure.
Thank you very much. When you say chicken, you want to, you're talking directly my language. Yeah? Josephine.
Thank you, Chair, and my co-panelists. I think as far as media is concerned, let's utilize the community medias and also the social media. Social media has also proved to be a powerful tool. I know of a county like Baringo County. When there was COVID, they were doing public participation on Facebook live, and people were able to join in. So let's copy the best practices from the counties which have already started that. So maybe as we are going on, we are COVID-19 is ongoing, and I think it is going to be a victim of every sin that will be committed in this year. Let the counties and the citizens be responsible in terms of planning, development, and managing their own affairs. Let's have participatory budgeting. Let's have participatory planning. Let's have participatory implementation. Let's have participatory monitoring and evaluation. And lastly, there's Intergovernmental Relations Act. Let that be implemented to the core. The National Treasury, the counties are not at the mercies of the national government. There is intergovernmental transfer, and when the transition was being made, it was clear that the county were going to need the resources. So if you allocate the resources to the counties, we understand the challenges that let's ensure that we give them the resources on time, so that the people at the ground will not have been ignored in terms of services and all that. Another thing, counties, whatever you have, you utilize it well and sparingly, and spend on core areas, not on issues that are not important. We know we have so many needs, but we have important needs that touch directly on the lives of the wananchi. So my parting shot is that devolution is possible if the laws that we have are implemented so well. We have no problem with the constitution. Let them implement the constitution first, and let's have political goodwill, and let's have public participation at the center of everything that takes place in this country, and devolution will be a success. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I thought you wanted to bring BBI discussions. Let's go to Dahir.
Thank you very much, Kevin. As we wind up, the media is passionate about negative stories, so much so that they don't cover the good side of devolution. We have so many good stories to cover. For example, we have the fruit processing plant in Kalamba that is courtesy of devolution, Makueni County. We have the Muitoko Fish Hatchery and Aquaculture in Vihiga County. We have the milk processing plant in Garseni and Bangale in Tana River County. And I believe so many people have never
Dair, you're getting lost. Dair, you're getting lost. Dair, getting lost. Okay. Can we hear then from Buki as we see what will happen with Dahir?
Okay, thank you so
Buki?
much. Yes, thank you so much, Kaya. So I agree with Dahir. Unfortunately, we didn't get to hear what he wanted to say, but I agree that there's so much.
Dahir, you'll come in later. Let
Yes.
Buki go.
Okay.
Buki,
so
go ahead.
yes, there's so much devolution has achieved. So I think, yes, can you hear me now? So yeah, so there's so much that devolution has achieved. So yes, we need to appreciate what devolution has achieved, but also there's also a big challenge in terms of media, in terms of freedom of expression. You saw the other day when they were talking about the different corruption scandals in the different counties. The Council of Governors threatened to withdraw their relationship with that media house because of exposing them. So I think the freedom of expression is a big challenge that we need to continuously support even the journalists and the individual journalists, especially because there are situations where individual journalists have been fired because of an expose or an issue that has been aired. Also, there's one particular thing that I want to raise around the whistleblowers bill that is in Parliament. I hope we can still fast track it because because journalists also depend on whistleblowers. So once at some point they might need to sort of show where they got that information, so the whistleblowers are also at risk. So I think that is something that we want to amplify. And then the other thing that I wanted to mention about citizen journalism, I think we need to sort of build more capacities of citizens to be able to be journalists, to share that information, because yes, we have mainstream journalism, but also it has its own restrictions. So citizen journalism allows us to give community stories in a very raw way. So I think we need to continuously empower more people to be able to venture into citizen journalism. I would want to echo what my colleagues have said around community radio. I think we need to have as many community radios as possible to be able to tell the stories of the communities. And then the other thing that I want to focus on now is digital ways of communicating. I think we also have a big problem with the digital tax that is coming up. It's starting in January. So anything that you post online, you will be charged to. I think that's a big challenge for us. And I think for the sector, we actually submitted some memoranda around digital taxation. Hopefully we'll be able to convene even the sectors, the partners that are in this conversation. How do we ensure that even while the government introduces digital tax, that we allow also people to share information, to be able to, also for young people to be able to earn from digital economy by itself. In a nutshell, in my closing shots, like most of my colleagues have said, yes, counties need to figure out how we can continuously have ways of this domestic resource mobilization, and then also looking at ways in which they can continuously increase their revenue. But most importantly is also figure out, because devolution was designed to be able to have the priorities of the people right. So I think for me, counties need to be able to have statistics, proper data collection, so that when they're designing a project, when they're prioritizing a project, they have proper statistics of how it will benefit the people. So I think they need to be able to sort of focus on data collection and planning based on statistics. Lastly is continuously learn from each other. I think cross-border county, or rather cross-learning from counties, needs to continuously go on so that we can best serve the people of this country. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. You forgot the creative industry. Next time you say that point, I know it's your passion area. Kevin Osido, please.
On media, echo in total what my colleagues have talked about, but I think it is also important to note that all the 47 counties have a media liaison officer, otherwise called the county director of communication, who is domiciled in the office of the governor. A lot of the work that these officers and good friends of mine have been doing really try to defend the governor and a lot of ills that are occurring in place in the counties. But I think it's important that as one of us, I think it's Mildred who spoke about capacity development or building for these particular individuals, that we only focus on the good things that the governor is doing, but the good, the bad, and the ugly, so that we are also able to learn. And I think it's very, very important to not only focus on one area, but also how we can build the capacities of even citizen networks and organizations at the county level, also to be able to showcase what counties are doing, particularly in the eye of public-private partnerships, because no county can make it. We all need each other. And so the media is very, very fundamental, and focus on local media and homegrown community-based media networks, I think is very, very critical. Not many counties have put any investments in that, other than the offices of the county directors of information, where a lot of training has taken place. But then you also look at the attrition levels. You train somebody today, tomorrow they're either transferred. I know of about 3 similar officers who have been trained very rigorously, a lot of investment, and then ultimately they're either promoted as chief of staff or given a CEC role. And so a lot of that then to some extent goes to waste. So I think as we think about lessons we are learning from the second generation of CIDPs, so county governance, we need to also look at where are the gaps and how can we be able to strengthen, particularly in terms of the wider reach, because the role of media is really out of entertainment and education, is also to ensure that we focused and broadcast the information around our county profiles and the work that we are doing. So even organizations, we need to also look at these particular individuals and feed them with information on what our findings are, the good things that are happening in counties, the bad things that we are seeing. Let them know about the petitions that are never answered, because our experience as County Governance Watch has been that those kind of people have actually been the go-to person, because they know who the CEC of Agriculture is. Sometimes even will tell you, oh, the CEC is not in, but the chief officer come and meet the director, you know. So I think in terms of also seeking to widen the scope of public participation, the role of the media and looking at the low-lying fruits at the county levels is very, very critical. I think that would be my closing. Thank you so much to Conrad Adeno Stiftung. I work with PS and
Hello. I don't know. Somebody muted Kevin, but it's okay. Let me now get a final parting shot from Dahir, and then I could sum it up.
Thank you very much, Kevin, and fellow panelists. Before I got off air, I was saying that there are so many good stories that the media can cover. We had a media partnership and training for media officers from Tana River, Mombasa, and Kilifi, but they are not passionate about covering devolution stories. I don't know why. They lack that passion. They are so much into negativity, and there are a lot of success stories that are not covered, courtesy of devolution. Like we have the fruit processing plant in Kalamba, that is Makueni County. That is a phenomenal achievement. We have the Muitoko fish hatchery in Vihiga County that has increased on-source revenue by almost around 40%. We have a milk processing plant in Gariseni and Bangale in Tana River County. That is also a story that needs to be told. We have a dual lane road that is 15 kilometers from Musikoma to Kandui. That is, I think, Kevin's territory. That is in Bungoma, Bungoma County, Kakamega County. So we have 28 kilometers of tarmac road in Wajir, 28 kilometers within the town in Wajir that so many people don't know, that so many people have never heard of. So there are a lot of success stories We have more than 50 boreholes that were done by the county government in Balambala sub-county, Garissa County. That is an area had perennial water shortage. So these stories are not told. People are not aware. We only talk about negative stories like the KEMSA scandal and other issues, corruption, governors being taken to court. So those are the headlines. But we never hear of what the Kalamba food processing plant has done for the residents, how many people are employed, the poverty reduction strategy that has been achieved as a result of that processing plant. So I would say that we need to do a lot more, engage the media more so that they could cover devolution stories from another perspective rather than looking for corruption-related scandals in counties. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Maybe just to mention Mombasa, we have the stadium. Is it true, Josephine? You are muted.
Mama Ngina Waterfront, I think.
It is there, yes?
We have the stadium, yes.
Great. So at least something in the sporting, you know, for the young people.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, my very able panelists. I want to appreciate you, first of all, for really being cooperative. Forgive me if I stopped you or if I did something that did not really augur well with you. This prefect responsibility, sometimes you cannot become popular, but we have to take responsibility. Number two, I wish to thank our participants who have raised so many questions and inputs which we could not read because of time, but I believe that they have been recorded and captured by our colleagues from Conrad, and they can be shared in form of a report for the public to digest and consume this information. I've gathered a lot of points, but in a summary, there is a major point that came from us that we as a people need to take individual responsibility, citizen responsibility to put our systems to order, to participate in governance processes, and generally to ensure that we actually achieve accountability of the resources that come for the public. I wish to say thank you to Conrad Adenoa Stiftung for giving us an opportunity to share with the public our experiences and our knowledge, which we hope that will help ably to guide policy formulation and discussions of devolution going forward as we get into the next 10 years of devolution, or if we get into the discussions of BBI, which are hovering around the nation. I am hopeful that we have Sheila on board. I can't really see her. I would wish to hand over the session to her, but if she's not in, I will ask the representative of Conrad from the north side, Dahir, to close. Dahir, please close the session.
Hello, thank you very much to all the panelists and Kevin, who's moderated this debate very well. We would wish to have another conversation going forward. We have such Zoom meetings in every Monday. So you might be contacted in the near future for deliberations like this. We value your feedback. We also value the time that you've given us in participating. 2 hours is not a joke. Participating in a Zoom is not an easy, it's not like a one-on-one meeting. So thank you very much to all the panelists. Thank you to Kevin for having moderated the sessions very well. And thank you to all the participants who took their time to raise questions and participate in this debate effectively. Thank you very much.
Have a blessed night, guys. Let's meet on the black tent for our other discussion.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
thank you all.
Thank you.
Kelvin, I hope that we have part 3 of this
Thank you,
discussion.
Muki and Mildred,
Sorry?
Alex, and everyone.
I'm saying I hope we can have a second and third part of this discussion.
Yes,
Yeah.
that request, yeah, there should be more.
There should
Oh,
be
he's
no.
there.
Okay, why is
He's there.
important?
Well, I am really sorry. Today I'm in Niko mashinani leo because I have a field activity starting tomorrow, and my internet has really been misbehaving. I've been trying to keep up. Sometimes I'm just on and off, but anyway, thank you. Let me just close before again I go off. So thank you so much, the panelists, and also the online entities for plugging in this evening, especially also for the panelists. Thank you so much for giving justice to this particular topic. Like a lot has been said. I don't even want to repeat myself as far as some of the key outcomes, or rather the key things that were rather the highlights of some of the key topics that key areas that you mentioned. So I really appreciate everything. And maybe just on behalf of Conrad, I don't know, actually, I'd just like to mention to you that yes, when it comes to devolution matters, CAS has really also made quite an effort in partnership with civil society organizations on the ground. As Kevin and Dahir actually mentioned a while ago that yes, we do a lot of capacity building, for example, to county administrators, to assist them understand, these policy processes, to help the selected counties that I had mentioned earlier to come up with some good, good structures, or rather a good legal framework as far as devolved governance is concerned in the counties. And I'd just like to appeal to us as stakeholders in this field, or rather that work on matters enhancing, or rather strengthening decentralization, or rather devolution, to yes, continue empowering the citizens. Devolution and public participation, as Dahir rightly said, is a process. It's not really an event, and there's still a lot that needs to be done, especially for public participation, because that's where people are, especially even just the young people, are still not convinced why they should participate, because maybe for them they think, fine, with all this, for example, corruption scandals that are going on left, right, and center, our taxes are just being misused and all. Why should we get into these processes? And yet, we're not really benefiting much of it. But no, we need to, as stakeholders in this field, I encourage us to continue to really do a lot as far as enhancing, or rather strengthening, devolution, is concerned at our counties. And also challenge us, to present, or rather, to provide a healthy oversight role, not just critiquing what is not working, but rather provide a very healthy oversight role, and also put in a lot of positive feedback and solutions, so that we don't just look like, yes, you are always criticizing, oh, this county is doing this county is not doing much, this county. No, let's provide a healthy oversight role so that we can all really, benefit when our counties start really functioning properly as far as this process is concerned. So thank you again for our online attendees as well. Thank you very much for plugging in. Unfortunately, I was looking at the social media pages, but I couldn't really, because I realized when I go to Twitter just to check what's happening there, my network bandwidth could just go low. So that's why I didn't manage to really check what kind of reactions are there. But majority of the questions were actually asked in the Q&A platform on Zoom, which were answered by most of you. So that was really good. So thank you. Have a lovely night, and God bless you all.
Yeah, you can take.
Thank you very much.
I think.
Bye.